water bill, Scott issue. All right, Edith. It's easier to say paying the water bill. All right, next we have the interim Coxsackie Athens Central School District Superintendent that we've invited down because the community is somewhat in the dark about what's going to be happening at EJA. We're going to come on over and introduce yourself. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Darkforce-Sweeney. I'm the interim superintendent of Coxsackie Athens. And I was invited here to talk about what's going to happen. The fourth grade that is currently going to be at EJA next year will all be together at Coxsackie. We're moving all the kindergarten to EJA, so there'll be no kindergarten classes at Coxsackie, they'll be at EJA. Major reasons for this are pretty apparent. The community already knows that we're in a financial bind. We had a deficit approaching $3 million that we were forced to decide to cut 11 teaching positions, 7 of which were the elementary school, and take from reserves, which obviously is not a sustaining thing, of $2 million in order to balance the budget. The school district then, once the budget was passed, had to decide how to best deploy the remaining teachers we had in the elementary school. I directed the principals and the teachers to say, okay, here's what we have, what's the best makeup, and what does it look like? I asked them to look at and keep the students centered and foremost in their minds. The students, it's no secret, have not been performing well in state tests. In fact, Coxsackie Athens is on the state list for needs of improvement. Looking at that, looking at the issue that we have fourth graders over here in a very small setting going into next year, and then we're normally the middle school with no transition, that we felt was probably pretty daunting. And the fact that a decision was made a few years ago that special ed programming would be kept in Coxsackie, forcing students from this community to go to Coxsackie in order to get those special education services. While it's not against faith, it's not certainly in the spirit of faith, which is free appropriate education for disabled children. So the recommendation that came from the principals and teachers of both EJA and Coxsackie was to do the alignment we talked about. Letters were sent out to the parents of the incoming fourth graders and kindergartners, notifying them of that change. In between all that, I was alerted that there was paperwork that initially was due in March for such a change. This registration change is fairly new within SED. I called SED. SED was gracious enough to give us an extension on the paperwork due to our financial issues with our budget, the fact that we had to cut so many teachers. They gave an original due date of June the 26th on it. A lot of people at our board meeting mentioned that you haven't put in the paperwork yet. Well, the way it works at SED is I can't put the paperwork in until everything is done. The last piece of it was, of course, the Board of Education vote and the proclamation of that, so I could send it in. Shortly after the conclusion of the meeting that we had last Thursday, I submitted such paperwork to the SED. Now, the paperwork is called the Public School Registration. It is not an application. It is not something that requires any sort of approval by the state per se. The purpose of the PSR is so that the state knows that where aids are going according to beds numbers, financially and educationally. The public school organization is in the hands of the Board of Education to make such a decision. The decision was made by the board and trusting of their educational leaders, their principals and teachers to do such a thing. I signed off on the wish of the board and submitted all that paperwork. People talked in a lot of the other meetings about transparency and everything else. It's not something that's unknown. You all know that better than I do. The school has tried a few times to make a reorganization thing that's been met with a lot of resistance. In fact, the board meeting proved to me that resistance is still there. But despite all that, we had to make a decision on what's best for the kids because they're not doing well. and do what we can to best keep EJA a vibrant part of our school district and using it to the best of our abilities. In fact, what is noted is that you'll have more students in EJA next year than you had this year. We will continue to review the situation and see how it's developed. Plans are made by both principals this summer to help the students ease transition, both on the Athens side for the kindergartners coming in and on the Coxsackie side for the people of the Athens elementary area. One thing I found interesting in all the feedback I got, quite frankly, was it was centered on 4th grade. No one seemed to be too concerned that we were putting all the kindergarten here up in Athens. Additionally, when we look at the size, the attendance district currently of the EJA school, it takes in about 45% of the entire geography, including up to Plank Road. So we literally have students that can actually see the Coxsackie campus that are actually transported here. So in viewing of everything, looking at what we had left as far as teachers are concerned, looking at the students' performance, and looking at what changes we can make curricularly to enhance that, decisions were made as they were. The kindergarten early learning center that we're going to be able to really concentrate here will bring all the pre-K, which you already have up here, along with all the kindergarten, so that we can get early literacy going. For those of you who understand education and literacy, obviously the earlier is better. We'll be able to coordinate that, coordinate resources, and we'll be able not to disrupt families of special ed that require special ed services from this community that traditionally would be shipped over to Coxsackie for. They'll be able to have that here. The 4th grade, in the meantime, will be brought over to Coxsackie, as I said previously, and we'll be able to give them a transition year. In other words, start developing their skills of independence, start developing their skills of being compartmentalized in terms of teachers, departmentally, to be able to begin to learn how to move about the school. They will also have the benefit of interacting with the middle school setting later on in the year as they become more assessed to it. So instead of rushing all of that and taking them essentially from this area back up to the middle school, we'll be able to do that. I know it's not ideal. I know it's not what you want. But unfortunately, it's the cards we've been dealt with right now, and this is the best solution that we think we can find. I know you disagree, and that's fine. I accept that. But the decision, I want you to understand, was not done as sleight of hand. It was not done, to stick it to anybody. It was done with a lot of thought and a lot of care about the kids. In fact, I asked the administrators and teachers to forget the outside noise and concentrate on the children, since that is our primary concern for all the children in the district throughout Coxsackie, Athens. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for, I have a couple of questions and then, what precipitated this financial, caused the financial deficit?
There are a couple of things. Last year, the previous superintendent and board tried to cut, I think, approximately $800,000 out of the budget with cuts. A lot of people came to the board, pressured them, all those cuts were put back in. So we essentially lost those savings that we would have had on the budget. So what ends up happening, think of it this way. So whatever you had in savings comes over to the next year, you have to account for that, and plus the gap.
I do the municipal budget.
Right, so you follow what I'm saying. So in using the resort, and I apologize to you because you understand this, I'll try to explain to everybody else. Our reserve money are one-shot wonders. They are things that are compiled over years. When you've underspent budget, you can put it in an unassigned place where you're able to use it for various reasons. Or you put it in assigned reserves, which are specific reasons, like EBLAR or retirement systems, construction projects. There are a multitude that you can do. So starting this year, we had $3.5 million in the unassigned balance. If we were not to use reserves, and if we were not to cut any of the teachers, the property tax budget would have gone out of over 15%, which obviously is not allocable to any department. So we tried to make as many cuts as we could without cutting. And how do we decide those cuts? Pretty simple math. How many students do we have anticipate coming in a certain grade? how many teachers would you need to do that? All right, so we took that we didn't try to place them anywhere, just said how many would you need? The $2 million that was used this year, and this will be the challenge moving on to the board and everybody for next year, is that you use $2 million of funding that you don't have recurring. So when we go into the budget season next year, we've got that $2 million gap and any sort of contractual increase. A lot of you understand contracts. A lot of contracts have yearly increases. You might have noticed that fuel prices might be a bit unsteady in terms of what that is. So 90% of the budget is fixed in terms of contracts, leases, and obligations that you have. The remaining 10% are what I call the paper clips, the field trips, the whatever that you can possibly cut. So you've had a declining enrollment for a long time, okay? I can't change what happened before I got here. But what I can tell you is that there wasn't a resizing done that should have been done. You haven't had, traditionally prior to about 10 years ago, you had over 1,300 people in the district. That's about 100 kids in every class. You haven't had that in the last 8 years. It's been steadily declining. Next year, your 3 biggest classes are going to be your seniors, juniors, and sophomores. All 3 of those classes are between 93 and 98 right now. And the rest of the class sizes go down precipitously from there. In fact, your next big grades are 2 grades that are 3 years apart, and they have 81 children. The rest of those grades are between 70 and 60 on average.
Right, do you mind? Two follow-up questions. One is the quick one. So this is good information. I appreciate you sharing this with us. I'm wondering why it wasn't shared with the community, the taxpayers who fund the school, sooner than parents of only the kindergarten and the 4th grade getting a letter. I get the school calendar. I don't have kids. Why didn't I get information about this? I found out about this from an irate, angry citizen of the village. I think what we're most concerned about is the lack of transparency on this, and it does feel like sleight of hand, because we just went through this a couple of years ago, and the community vehemently fought it back. The numbers that you're telling me now, I understand, but it seems, it does seem a bit underhanded, and frankly, you're going to be gone, a week from today, so you won't have to take responsibility for any of this when it comes down. My other question is, what was done to look into creative ways of finding more revenue, using some of the real estate that the school district owns, the buildings that are there, if there was another way to maybe draw in. It's just, for this community, it feels like a gut job. We have now the older kids that could be role models for the younger kids are going to be gone another place all day. They're going to be traveling longer. That takes away from their family time. That takes away from their extracurricular time and their homework and their study time. I don't know why you didn't get more questions about the kindergartners. I'm concerned about the Coxsackie 5-year-olds riding on a bus. And we haven't seen a plan. We haven't seen, the last time this happened, there were community meetings and we were invited to go and sit and talk. I remember the one where there were little tables and you went from one table to the next. Every department had something to say about it. They didn't fully convince me, but they had a plan and they approached this community with respect. And it just feels like Coxsackie Athens School District wants to cross Athens right off of the name. That's how it feels to the people in this room. I think I speak for most of us. And I don't mean to beat up on you. I know you're an interim superintendent, but a lot of mistakes have been made in this situation.
Well, respectfully, I disagree with you as far as mistakes are concerned.
It wasn't a mistake not to inform everybody involved in the community with it.
Could I answer? Thank you. Okay. Whether or not everybody in the community had to know,
we did have to know.
That's fine. That's fine. But we were in a situation, we are in a situation where we have so many resources that we have to figure out how to use best for the kids. It is very clear that you don't like this. It is very clear. But what we're trying to do is maximize the usefulness of that building in a situation we have, give you more students, and actually do something positive for the kids. Now, as far
for the
as
administrators?
as far as the budget is concerned, we were very up in front about that, about what we were going to have and what was going to be with it. All right, I'm not going to get into a back and forth about whether you like how we approached it or not. Okay, it is how we approached
Sir,
it.
whether or not you want to get into a back and forth with me, this community had a right to know. This community had a right to be informed in a way that made more sense and had more respect than just the parents of the 2 grades that would be immediately affected being informed. There are
Exactly.
families here, there are siblings, there are people who don't even have kids that care about what happened to the kids in this community. And frankly, this feels like it's something that this, you weren't here before. I don't know what your background is with the community itself, but this community has been through this several times. And here we are. And this time we got no information, we got no chance to say anything until it was basically a done deal. So yes, I do think mistakes were made. Whether you agree with me or not is irrelevant here. Mistakes were made. If I make a mistake, I own it.
And if I make one, I own it.
So you're owning up to that.
Not owning up to any mistake. I'm owning up that we made a decision with kids' interest in here. Period.
So can I just ask one
Please.
thing? Most of the children now are intermingled in their Little League, softball, whatever, so they know those kids. So it's not such a big transition for when, like, I was in school, you know, in 6th grade, then you went up to 7th grade. It was scary. But they don't have that anymore because they intermingle so much. So you can't say that it's an easier transition. Those kids, years ago, when they took the first couple grades out of Athens Elementary, they had the wing. They were not to be intermingled with the older children. They were. They're on the bus with older children, which is not good. And it's detrimental to the child. So now you have kindergarten kids that are gonna be coming down here. Are they gonna be on a bus with older children? Or did you make arrangements for?
Yeah, is there a transportation?
Yeah, it's gotta be a transportation thing. And a 4th grader shouldn't be on a bus with a 12th grader.
Well, I've been on a lot of school districts, and I've worked in a lot of school districts for K-12, and we've always had a variety of kids on the bus without any issues. So in terms of transportation, you're transporting a lot of kids already from basically Plank Road down here, because your attendance zone takes up all that area. So there will be a reshuffling of buses, yes. You will have some kids that are on with older kids, that's true.
And how long
And as far as
will
the
they have?
transition is
Yeah.
concerned, if I may,
Yeah.
okay, it's a lot different going from a single teacher with 13 kids in a class, going into a wing of a building where you have, you know, anywhere from 150 to 175 kids. You have to have some independence academically and know how to maneuver going from class to class to class.
I'm not a mom. How old is a 4th grader? 9? 8, 9 years old? A 4th grader, they need to have independent academic independence.
If you have removed as many elementary teacher positions as you have, can I maybe get an estimate of what class sizes are gonna look like under this new configuration? My concern is you took teachers away. Class sizes are at a comfortable 13 to 16 kids right now. Are you gonna be putting us into the realm of 20 plus?
There will be for some of those.
And you
I'll
have
be happy to
concerns
put
about
that.
how these kids are doing in school, and you think they're gonna do better in a class of 20 plus? Maybe your issue is the teachers.
Well, we can only afford what we can afford, and that's what we're going with.
Did administrators ever think of cutting any administrators or taking less pay on that end of things?
Well, as far as
Afford more
cutting
teachers?
administrators is concerned, we're bare bones at the district right now. By law, you have to have a principal in every building. In a school our size, we don't even really have an assistant principal to assist with anything that they have to do. We do have one.
Salaries are
principal-
quite high for the administrators in
Excuse me?
Coxsackie Athens School District, though, aren't they?
Excuse me?
Salaries are quite high
They're
for the
comparable
area.
to, they're comparable to the teacher salaries and everything else in this area, yes.
Well, interns are paid very well, and I have a relative that happens to be an intern in school. In Coxsackie, and they're paid very well, they're paid more than the principal would be paid. So, you know, and as far as the teachers, or test grades, that's on the teachers. That's on the teachers that are playing around in the schools. Why don't the administrators, who are being very well paid, go after the teachers? Write them up, because they're not doing their job. They're not. And then you wouldn't have this problem. You wouldn't be on a state list or anything like that. You know, I just think there's other ways to do it, and making, where I was always understood, I don't know if it's true, that EJA always had slightly better grades than the Coxsackie when they went up there. So now, what are we all gonna do? We're gonna shift it all to, okay, let's all go downhill. Let's all do that. Because there was more interaction in EJA than in Coxsackie, and rightfully so. I mean, Athens is a walkable community. The teachers can bring the kids around the village. They can show them the old houses. They can show them, you know, the history. They can show them the river. They can go to the library. You can see all of that stuff. Coxsackie's not like that. Coxsackie's not. And that's my concern.
I have a question, if I may. You speak to the budget deficit and reconfiguration, and I know that previously, two things. The teacher positions that were being eliminated through teacher cuts and attrition, that was occurring with or without reconfiguration. I've been to I've been to the district budget hearing, I've been to several school board meetings. That was happening with or without reconfiguration. So my question is, where is the cost savings? My first part of my question is, where is the cost savings of reconfiguration if your decision, if the end game isn't ultimately close EJA? And my second point to that would be, why haven't you given a comprehensive plan regarding that? As to what the long-term plan is, because you talk about eliminating teachers, you talk about this, that we have this deficit, but nothing you're doing addresses the deficit. And to the people that are in the room, the reason that people didn't talk about kindergarten necessarily is because when you presented this to the public as a possibility, kindergarten was always part of that possibility. Fourth grade was never part of it. Fourth grade wasn't part of it until the teachers were notified of it, so that is why. And the reason more people in the community didn't come forward is because they didn't know about it. Because I have children in EJA, I have a child in the high school, and I still have not been notified, other than I'm an active and involved parent. I take huge problem with that, and you don't have to say that it's your fault, but it is a problem. The whole entire community, the whole entire district, all the students deserve more time to make this transition. You talk about transitioning. These kids have been at this school, they're expected to graduate from there, and 2 weeks before the end of school, you said, oh, by the way, you won't be here anymore. Your teachers, your principals, your lunch ladies, your custodians, you're going to a new school. So you talk about these transitions, but yet everything you do totally contradicts what you're saying.
I accept what you're saying. A couple of caveats. As far as the savings is concerned, the 7 teachers are cut is the savings.
Right.
The question then is how to best deploy that for the students, all the students that we have in the school. That's what I presented to the principals, both your principal here, principal at Coxsackie, and the teachers, to come up with a plan, and that's the recommendation that they made. Again, I apologize that you don't like it. I apologize that the information hasn't come out to you more forthwith. But at the same time, it's a decision we have to make, and I stand by it. Yes. Oh, wait, one more thing. You said the savings, okay?
Yeah.
The savings with the 7 teachers that were cut in the elementary
Right.
school. There's no savings on top of that if that's what you're looking for.
Right, because I would
So,
say that your
No,
transportation
there's
is
no
gonna
savings on top of it.
Right, so it's gonna cost more, because now you're transporting
Transportation,
people
we
more.
checked that, actually, that is, Ted has told me that we're within the budget of what we have. So I can't
No,
answer
I'm
that,
just-
because
it would
that's what I'm
just-
telling you, that's what I know.
It would just say to me, you have people traveling further distances now. So I don't know how, when gas is nearly $5 a gallon,
When I asked that question, that's what I was told.
not to mention the cost of it, but also the time. Kids are gonna be on buses for
I
a
hear what
very
you're
long
saying.
time.
So I spoke, obviously, we've met before. My biggest issue is with transparency, policy, procedure. I understand everything you're saying. I understand it's not your fault that we are in the budget deficit we're in. I personally believe that we dealt with an issue in our administration for probably over a decade, to be honest. I understand that. I understand there's less children, we know that, that's a national statistic, everybody knows. But again, if you had taken the procedures and the steps set forth by NICEAD, which involves public, notice, of actual public notice, which I did not see in the Daily Mail, so I'm not sure where your public notice was for the Board of Education. Can you let me know if you submitted that?
I submitted, yes.
You did?
Yeah, I submitted with,
What day
the
would-
website that we did, and the submission to the State Education Department
Mm-hmm.
happened the night after, it happened
Right.
that night afterward.
Right, but the public notice would have been for the vote. That's what the state says. It goes through all the steps.
For example, we had to put in a public notice just to have the meeting in the firehouse instead of at the.
Yeah, so, we're accustomed to that. But anyways, neither here nor there. This is just another thing that I'm trying to really bring home that we cannot continue to do in this district.
Understood.
Now, obviously, I wish this was explained to us a little bit better at the meeting, which you could have. 7 of us said that we were speaking to the NICEAD protocol, and nobody corrected us. Many other people were corrected on other misinformation.
This protocol, as far as the meeting goes, as far as what I can answer and what I can't
Okay,
answer, I
okay,
apologize.
okay.
And I
So-
am sorry to you and the community about, not letting you know more about what's going on. I'll get other information out to you, but I can't change that at this point.
Right, of course.
And I apologize for that.
Thank you. So with that being said, Casey spoke about the possibility of a comprehensive plan. I think most people in this room have worked in a job that they've come across a comprehensive plan.
So, if I may,
yeah.
might as well take care of things as you're bringing them up.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Board of Education is in the middle of making a strategic 3 to 5 year plan so that we can get out of this hole.
Good.
They've approached Rick Timms, who's nationally and regionally known as a forensic, accountant that can come in. He works entirely with schools. You can look him up, TIMBS. Rick Timms is his name. He'll be looking at our processes, what we do, when we do it. Are we maximizing all the investments that the school has? What else they could be doing? Because we certainly don't want to be in the same position as we were in the previous few years, where the district was scrambling in February to try to figure out a budget. So they're doing that. They're also
But a
employing.
comprehensive plan for the reconfiguration, if you expected the board to vote on it, did they receive a comprehensive plan detailing?
They received the plan that the principals had put forth.
So there is a plan somewhere?
For that year, for this year,
Oh,
yes.
it doesn't include
So-
next year?
Not yet,
But-
because we want to look at what the other things that we
So we
have.
could be in the same position next year, like the student could be?
I don't think so. I don't think
So you
so.
would announce it before, like,
Yes.
June 4th?
Right, absolutely.
So if we have that comprehensive plan, then we know whatever the
Right.
cost savings are, and we know what the transportation analysis and cost approved would be, right?
Right, so let me just also finish detailing what the board is doing in terms of planning. Besides Rick Timms going through that, they've also are employing CASDA, which is a research arm of City of Albany, to look at demographic study of the area and see what we can do in terms of maximizing where things are and how to do things. We also want to maximize this school here because it's here, it's ours, it's part of the community. And how that'll look, I don't know. But it will be brought out much earlier than what we did this year. Because by having these things in process, we'll know ahead of time really what we're dealing with as opposed to trying to play
That's
catch
what
up
we
in
need,
February.
that has to happen.
Yes, and
It has to
that's
happen.
what we're trying to do.
However, I'm a little confused as to why we didn't try to look for more creative solutions. When I attended the public hearing before the original budget vote, so this is the beginning of May, You had presented the kindergarten, you told us the numbers don't work, we saw that plain and clear. You also had mentioned you'd be reaching out to local town and village officials, possibly seeing a creative solution we can help you with. My problem there is what happened after. I preemptively requested a meeting with you, we met with Julie Wolf, I believe it was, right? Said, open door, talk to us. And then you went and had a private meeting with the supervisor and the village that owns that building that you toured with 2 unknown board members, wasn't even notified, so.
Well, let me explain how that happened.
Yeah.
He works as one of the voting people.
Yes, I
He
understand.
invited me in, and I said, I'd really like to see that building.
Okay, gotcha.
So I
Yeah.
said, great, and I invited 2 of the board members to come tour it with me. I have a particular affinity for school architecture, school building architecture.
Okay,
One of my tours was with SED, and I worked with the Big Five Mount Vernon. So I've seen a lot of different schools with it. I worked with schools that are WPA projects. So they all have a unique character to them and how they were developed. So that was my interest in seeing it.
yeah, I have a love for older homes as well. I own one and I was married in an old bank. I love older architecture and that building is really cool. In particular, the village building. But, again, was there any business discussed during that meeting?
No,
Nothing,
Can I ask
okay.
a follow-up to that? Was this was the same day that the supervisor went to see the EJA building and the discussion of town potentially taking that building or purchasing it?
it's,
The town supervisor, Mike Peroni, so
Didn't make
did he take a tour of EJ Arthur with you?
no.
Anyways,
Somebody's on it.
regardless,
I'm sorry,
Somebody's on it.
All
I
right,
didn't say it was you.
did you discuss making EJA a mixed-use building, possibly renting out space in there for offices or some of the town or office people moving up to there?
I don't recall that we had any discussion
And they're
about
turning
anything
the
like
community
that.
building into
Have
a
I-
early childhood
Have I
development.
had, off the record conversations with people within the school about it? Yeah, I threw it out as an idea that might be it, but in terms of a formal discussion with Mike or anybody else, no, I did not.
So that wasn't even an informal discussion with Mike?
No. Honestly,
so the
we went to
reason
see
why-
the building. We went to see
the
what.
reason why I brought it up was because what I had hoped when we had met was that there would have been some sort of communication, especially since Athens is the school, in question right now mainly. I mean, I also feel that Cooksaki parents are affected by this. And I think that if we're gonna have 2 elementary schools, each one of them should have the same type of education for every student in our district. End of story. However, just a person in the district took some time, looked into what Cooksaki Athens owns right now in parcels. The reason why I bring this up is because I know that both the Village of Athens and the Village of Cooksaki receive New York Forward grants that I believe requires them to be accepting of affordable homes or having an affordable home plan.
Pro-housing community.
Pro-housing communities. So my thought was, your governing body as the school, right? You govern yourself. Could you develop some of these lands along with some state funding, if we were able to work with the Affordable Housing Initiative in the state? Could we possibly either find a developer to sell to or help us through a development and create a revenue way to possibly, convert the 15 acres on Adams Road that Cooksaki Athens owns and isn't using for affordable housing and also attract new young families to the area to get our student population up? I mean, that's a creative idea I came up with in my living room at 9 o'clock at night.
Well, thank God for your living room. Yeah, I think it's a fascinating idea, and that's something certainly we'll bring to Rick Timms in terms of looking at that. That would count as part of the investments and what the,
Right,
and looking at what the state has. Honestly, I'd never thought in those terms of parlaying something like that in that.
But getting community involvement will bring that to you. And if
Yeah.
you wanted the outreach, you could have reached out. Not saying that it was gonna fix anything or that we'd not end up in the same situation, but it would at least give everybody the feeling that they were involved. I mean, the taxpayers support 55% of your school budget. They do, that's the numbers. We fund 55% of these schools. We also vote on this budget. We should be a part of this, that's all.
Agreed, understood. The other thing too, I'll point out, and you were part of the discussion with me,
Mhm.
is that you host in the school district, you know, the Athens Correction Facility, the Greene County Corrections Facility. We get absolutely no money from it. I mean, you're talking about parcels of land that should be generating anywhere from $6 to $12 million in taxes each year. If we got the low end of that, you know, you would have a lot less problems in the school district. And with your help, and I thank you, we were able to convey that to some of our representatives. I'm not sure there's anything they can do. So for the rest of you, what we're talking about is the Greene County Correctional Facility and the Kaskaki, you know, facility, state facility. It's a huge tract of land they have. You receive no benefit from it in terms of taxes, okay? In fact, in the last few years when they've been closing prisons and stuff, that's when the state finally started giving money to people. The misnomer of what the state will tell you is that it creates jobs and everything. But the jobs that are created there, the higher paying ones, the people who are more likely to buy homes and have the best turnover tax-wise, usually don't live in the school district that we have. So, you know, the moral of the story is if your neighboring community is looking to host a jail, it's probably a good idea to do it. You'll benefit better from it. But, you know, this is information I'll be leading on to everybody else. You know, you need to advocate for something like
But
that.
that's in Cooksaki, so Cooksaki, that's where the tax dollar would be or not be, and I realize it's part of the school district, but Cooksaki town and village have received, because their infrastructure has been upgraded, they may not receive it from the tax base, so you have to think about that too.
No, absolutely.
The town and village of
Absolutely.
Cooksaki, there's a benefit to it being there.
Well,
There's
when
no
I'm looking
benefit
at,
to
yeah,
it
but the
being
benefit is not coming from the state. In other words, we're doing the state a favor by hosting, but they're not reciprocating in any way of tax revenues or anything like that.
Right.
So you may get some indirect,
Yeah.
benefit from it, but you're not getting a direct benefit from it. I love that idea that you mentioned. That's something we'll bring up with Rick Timms. Rick Timms can put that in the financial plan that we're looking at and combine that with the demographic study. They'll start parceling that out. The board is committed. They've already had a couple of meetings about this, pre-meetings with it. So this will be an ongoing process. I will make sure that Dr. K that's following me will get their word out to everybody, what's going on, give updates to the the strategic plan that the board is going through. Yes.
So what's the plan to make up for whether or not we agreed it was a mistake, to get this information out to the taxpayers and obviously this isn't the entire community here today.
Right. I'll get something on the website before I close off.
How would you disseminate that to the average, citizen?
Average citizen, well, I can do it through all the community parents through ThrillShare. I can do it on the website to let them know that information will be out there.
What about a statement that the village could release from the school district?
I'll be happy to provide you with something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just say something 1 second? I'm Bart Wallace, I'm on the board 24 years. I just want to talk about the Adams Road piece that you mentioned.
Yeah.
The school board for 2 years was in the planning to put a solar farm down there through the state of New York and with a private company. And it was going to be an excessive amount of money coming back to the school district if we could get that solar farm online. Just when we had 90% of the approval, we heard back from Central Hudson that we probably wouldn't be able to get onto the grid for another 2 or 3 years. We were 10th in line of other commercial entities out there. So, and we didn't get that piece of information until about January of this year. So we have been looking at other uses for that property.
I mean, I think
To maximize our dollars?
With a declining population of students, getting housing in that young families could afford would be incredible.
Yeah, any use that can bring income to the district would help us out.
It's a state initiative right now, and both towns had to sign into it as well, so.
I just wanted to let you know that the school board had been working on that project for over
Okay.
2 years, and at the last minute, we found out from Central Hudson that
I
it
did
would
want to
have been
mention this
a waiting list.
if you weren't, I'm sure you've been on for 24 years, you're well aware. That's only one example. Just so everybody's aware, the Cooksaki Athens School District owns a total of 179.46 acres of land in the district right now. how much of that are we using for the student population? And are we generating revenue on any of those smaller parcels
Well, I
that we're
can tell
not
you on the
using?
Kentucky campus, we're using all of it.
No, you're not. You're
Well,
not.
I-
The parcel,
I
of the
respectfully,
2 parcels left of the, west of the main campus, 4.6 acres and 3.8 acres, tax map ID 56.18-1-6, 56.14-4-22. You're using 7 acres along the train tracks?
that's part of our nature trail system that our kids use in summer and winter for various activities.
And then
Plus-
there's
plus
also a third
plus
one,
that's-
9.5
Plus that
acres.
is acreage that has been discussed at school board meetings for putting additional baseball fields in that area as well.
Okay,
Because right now we're under capacity for all our teams.
okay, thank you. EJA,
To develop the land that's here, we already have
you're already
viable
cutting
fields.
that up. We have 20.6 acres here on the main campus, and an additional 2.85 acres south, which adjoins on Route 385, would be a great way to put in a little community back there. That butts up against the back of Murphy Drive.
I agree, these are all conversations that could be had.
Right, but before we make so many school changes and stuff, why aren't we looking to the future? If we know that there's a declining birth
I
rate,
can tell you that we're constantly looking at the future.
this is not,
And I also
this
would
proves
suggest
that to be not
that
true.
community members should come to our meetings,
Yep,
and you stay in line with the board as far as information that you get,
yep.
and any information you can provide at public input. We would take that information and use it to the best advantage of all the
Well,
citizens.
my daughter just entered this year in pre-K, so I will be at these meetings.
And I would encourage the members, the elected officials, to come to our meetings as well. So we just had a board meeting this past Thursday. I don't know if you were there or not, but there was a lot of public from Athens there, and we appreciated that.
But you're saying, if I may, just a statement, you're saying that people should stay informed when you've literally not informed anybody. So how,
Well, I respectively disagree. I think Dr. Sweeney has talked about that and the various methods that we've used this year and previous years.
A letter.
An email to just.
I still haven't gotten
fourth
anything in
grade parents.
districts, and I have students at EJA, so I
Well-
disagree. And I go to meetings and I hear about it, so I know what the plan was, and the plan wasn't fourth grade.
Well, hearing that information, I'll certainly take it down back to the Board of Education.
I have time to say one more question.
Anyone else?
I have a question. It's more like a statement. For a lot of students, it's traumatic to start school. So you're suggesting that the kids in Coxsackie who have the comfort of home there are going to get transported to Athens to go to school for 2 years. First grade, they're going to get ripped out and sent back to Coxsackie. They've established relationships the first 2 years of going to school, which are very, very important years. They establish relationships, they make friends, and they're going to be bused back to Coxsackie, and they have to start over again with new teachers, new routines, and all their children. I don't think that's keeping the kids in the kids' best interest in mind.
With everything that we're doing, we'll be able to look at what it is and see if we have to make any adjustments going forward.
You're going to
But
need some
thank you.
psychological counseling for those kids.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you.
All right, did Edith Margarito? Nope. Got a little deadline.